The final 2 manga of the year for Weekly Shonen Jump have just came out, and if you're watching this video, that means we're about to do the thing that I do best, or at least well enough, and talk about my first thoughts on the very first chapter of both of them. Now, both of these manga are the final 2 of a batch of 4, and if you're wondering why I'm not talking about the first 2, that's because I already did. That was on the previous video, you can check that one at the end of the video. But one of the things that I talked about in that video was that both of those manga were from veteran mangaka. And this is still the case with the third one, meaning that we only have 1 rookie mangaka in this batch. Well, if you don't count the artist for Cypher Academy, of course. You may be wondering then, who's the man behind the brand new Ichigoki's Out of Control? And that is a man named Seiji Hayashi. Now, that name may not be as recognizable as Daisen 5 or New Izin, but he's been on Jump before, having written a manga called Jimoto ga Japan, or I'm from Japan in English, which was in Weekly Shonen Jump just a couple of years ago. And just like that one, Ichigoki's Out of Control is a classic Shonen Jump gag manga, and while that means that some people will dismiss it right away, we don't do that in this channel. If you're new here, I've been quite positive and even a fan of multiple gag manga that ran in the magazine over the past couple of years. From Mitama Security to Gravity Boys, Me and Roboko, Mago-chan, and even Shugomaru. This is a channel where gag manga come to get its due praise. But I gotta be honest, I don't enjoy all the gag manga that started in Shonen Jump, and as a matter of fact, one of the manga that I wasn't too big of a fan was exactly Jimoto ga Japan. That manga had way too many jokes that didn't land, but in its defense, it was a manga that suffered tremendously from a culture barrier. The jokes involved almost exclusively Japanese culture and geography, so they didn't really work that well for an outside reader. With that in mind, I was a little bit more positive of Ichigoki's, because this was something with a bit more of an overall appeal, and I could finally see how Hayashi's humor worked when given a full context. The results, well, I wasn't a fan. The manga already starts with a horrible joke that automatically gives the manga a bad first impression before the story even properly starts. Once it does, look, I'm not going to bother going beat by beat throughout the story, because truth is, it's very dumb and clearly is only there to just give us the premise of the story as quickly as possible. Ichigoki, the first of our main characters, is a childhood friend of Misao, the second of the main duo. One day, Misao appears in front of Ichigoki as a very small version of herself. Turns out that she made some medicine to reduce her size to the point where she could go into her dollhouse. However, she didn't make any antidote, and she's stuck with that size. To make the antidote, she needs various testicles of various animals, which Ichigoki agrees to try to help gather, and then is literally killed by a gorilla. Just so you know, we are only 3 pages into the story. Ichigoki, however, wakes up as a robot created and controlled by Misao. The rest of the chapter, and probably the rest of the manga, is Misao doing very dumb things while badly in control of Ichigoki's movements. That's the main source of comedy here, and your entire enjoyment of this manga hinges on how sold you are on the premise. And this isn't by any means the only gag manga in Jump that is based on a single joke premise being done over and over. Shugomaru was it, Morning was it, and honestly even Mashal was, and to a degree still is. So that's not a thing I think ruins the manga, though it can help it grow stale pretty fast. However, that concern is more for a manga that starts good, which this one definitely doesn't. I think its main problem is the characters. Honestly, I think that's the most important thing in manga in general, but very much so in comedy manga like this. The reason why A Gravity Boys made me laugh was because I love the 4 boys and could see the years of friendship between them. The reason why I like Roboko is because I find Roboko herself hilarious, and because I think the rest of the cast is as sweet as they are fun. It is said that a good way to see if a person likes you is to make them laugh, because no one laughs at a joke told by someone they dislike. I think that's true, and I think we can apply that to manga as well. The 2 characters don't work. Misao is incredibly annoying. From page 1 I already dislike her, and Ichigoki is pretty boring, mostly being there to just react to Misao. And if I find the characters annoying, it's so much harder to have these characters make me laugh. And the worst thing a gag manga can do is have its entire first chapter with almost no good jokes, which is very much the case with this one. Do I think this is going to survive? No. However, I actually already had probably one of the most interesting runs in Shonen Jump, with I'm From Japan lasting for 2 years and even getting an anime despite being one of the worst selling newbies of recent Jump. Now, I think there's a good reason as to why that happened. I even did a full video on that run. You can check out in the link on the upper corner. I don't know which of the corners is, and it will also be at the end of the video, but I'll just say that the set of circumstances is highly unlikely to come again. So honestly, I am expecting this manga to be out of the magazine within 3 months. With that out of the way, let's talk about Fabricant 100. The final manga of the year, most likely, is also one of the most interesting battle shonens I've seen in a minute. The story is about a group of creatures called Fabricants. These creatures are supposed to be prototypes to create the ideal human. There have been 100 of them made. The story itself starts with a woman being kidnapped from a moving train, with her body being found days later with her eyes missing. An incident that is being investigated by our main character, the 14-year-old Ashibi Yaho, and a woman who seems to be his caretaker. We are given the backstory that Yaho is the sole survivor of a massacre that ended up killing this entire family. His family was notorious before that event, however, as they were said to possess a longer lifespan and rumored to have eternal life. I know that at this point there's already a lot of different elements to the story, but they all end up coming together very nicely. If you don't want to be spoiled as to how, I would urge you to read the chapter 1 before you continue this video. So Yaho finds the boyfriend of the kidnapped woman who was with her when the incident happened, and they learn that the creature who took her had stitches all over their body, which is a sign that they are the one of the titular Fabricants. Yaho tells us that the Fabricants are after various humans who possess superior genes. In the case of the woman, that was her eyes with amazing eyesight. The Fabricants were also the creatures that killed Yaho's family, exactly because of their superior genes. With that expedition out of the way, Yaho knows exactly how to call the Fabricant. By making a cut on his body, the Fabricants can smell his superior genes and will be attracted to them, which is exactly what happens. If you're wondering how Yaho is going to fight this Fabricant, well, there is no reason to worry, because the woman that accompanied him throughout the chapter turns out to be a Fabricant as well, one that easily dispatches the other. In a flashback, we are told how Yaho survived the slaughter and managed to gain such a powerful ally. By claiming that he hadn't reached maturity yet, he promises to give his body at the age of 18 to the Fabricant who can help him destroy all other Fabricants. The woman destroys all the other Fabricants in the mansion and accepts, not without revealing a fact about them. Each Fabricant was given a number, one that represents the order they were made. The larger the number, the later the creation, the stronger they are. Well, this woman just so happens to be the final Fabricant. Fabricant 100. Title drop, end. There was not actually a title drop though. Honestly, I thought it was pretty interesting. From the 19th century aesthetics to the horror elements, this manga got me hooked already. As a battle shonen, I'm not sure how good the fights will be. The fight itself wasn't really anything amazing. And with us starting with the most overpowered of all the creatures from the get-go, I'm willing to assume most fights will be a breeze until later on. What I hope this manga delivers at the beginning then is exactly what it did here, an exploration of a mystery. Have characters with superior genes die or go missing, and have our main characters try to figure out where the culprit is, or even who they are if, for example, the Fabricant decides to hide among humans, which from Fabricant 100 we know they are very much capable of. I'm also very interested in the relationship between the two characters. We got to see a bit of it, and it seems very fun, as the woman is very much preoccupied in making sure that Yaho stays perfectly healthy for her own gains. But I want to see it being tackled a little more seriously too. One final thing about the chapter that I want to note is that I actually enjoyed how we have this conversation of what it means to have revenge right from the get-go. Because Yaho could very much be after these Fabricants exclusively for revenge, but throughout the chapter we have this developing theme going around. Having revenge doesn't bring back the dead, but what our character wants is much more noble, as to be expected from a shonen main character, as he wants to make sure others don't have to go through what he's been, which is something the boyfriend of the victim learns himself too. The way it's done helps Yaho feel much less like he's an annoying young character striving for an impossible good ending like Emma from Promised Neverland, and instead he feels like a very mature young man who fully understands the consequences of losing someone. I liked it and I want it to survive, and honestly I think this is the strongest batch of the entire year. We have 3 returning authors, 2 very big ones, and we have 3 really good manga, even though they're not necessarily from the returning authors. Even Cypher Academy has been winning me over with the second and third chapter. However, me thinking that this is a strong batch does not mean I think they're going to survive. I think we'll be very lucky if more than one manga does end up staying in the magazine in the long run, with the way that the magazine is right now. However, I really hope they do. If you want to check out my first thoughts on the other two manga, check out the video that is on your left. And if you want to see how the mangaka from Ichigoki was one of the fastest mangaka in Jump to get an anime adaptation, click the video on the right. If you like this type of content, click the subscribe button. And if you watched it till here, thank you very much, and I'll see you next video.